Welcome to the Credit Union's Finals Recap Show. What a game, as always, what a great finals. As always, my co-host is Ramon de los Santos, and I'm Jeff Morrone. Again, before we get into anything, I just got to say thank you again to you, Ramon, for everything that you've done this season and being a part of this show. It's been awesome. And thank you to everyone who's tuned in. And, congratulations to all the teams that, completed their seasons. Congratulations to all the winners out there as well, too, who won the games yesterday. But as always, we'll talk about the format here because we're going to add a couple things at the end. We're going to stay with the D3, D2, D1 format, and then Ramon's going to go over the finals power rankings and present the season's awards at the end, as well as we will have interviews in between of those insights that we have for each of the divisional championships. Ramon, you got your wish yesterday. We had all close games. I think someone was out there listening to you. We got 2 overtime games. We got 1,000 points score and just some great basketball overall. Before we get into the insights and the thoughts on the finals overall, what were your thoughts on just the playoffs of the finals period?
Yeah, you're completely right. I got my wish. A lot of good games, and that's just what championship day is all about. Usually the teams that make it there, they're there for a reason. So those matchups are always tight. We had some overtime games. We had some just great basketball all day long. It was amazing just to sit on the couch and watch all day.
Yeah, it was a great to sit on the couch and relax and watch all the games. All right, let's get into the Credit Union Championships by starting with the Division III playoff. Our first game was an overtime thriller, Blackstone Valley Prep versus Times 2. This was a rematch from February 19th matchup where Blackstone Valley got the best of Times 2. But then Times 2 was able to get the revenge. Back and forth games. Xavier Mendez it was really the Xavier Mendez show, I feel like, in the first quarter and the first half. BVP was up 23-20. And then BVP really started to take control of the game in the third quarter. And at the end of the third quarter, they're up 34-26. And then, Kobe, then it became the Kobe Pena show and Jason Peters show as well, too. What were your thoughts on this game as we jump, what were your thoughts overall of this game, this overtime matchup? What do you think?
Believe it or not, obviously that classical Hendy game was something I was looking forward to, but this D3 game I wanted to watch so bad, and it lived up to the hype. Like we said at the beginning, it was a Xavier Mendez show. BVP looked like they were going to do what they've been doing. The whole play was just like, defeating Giants by a lot, and they were just playing so aggressive, so, dominating, and Xavier Mendez was doing, everything. They kept feeding him the ball. He was finding so many ways to score, but I knew, Times 2 kept hanging around. And I was like, sooner or later, they're going to start hitting some shots because Jason was getting the open shots. He just wasn't hitting them at the beginning. And Kobe wasn't being as aggressive in the first half. The second half, he pulled 1 3 from like the logo and it went in. And then you could tell that just gave him the confidence he needed. Then he started driving, shooting, and then that got, Jason open in the corners and stuff like that. And then he started hitting shots. And the team just rallied around that because it wasn't just them too. Some of, Prinka was playing great defense with Xavier Mendez all of a sudden, getting a lot of deflections, things like that. And it just, turned out to be an amazing game. Like you said, Kobe ended up with 21, Jason with 20, including his 1,000-point. His 1,000-point was in the corner 3, I think it was. That was like a 3 that got him a 2-point lead. So it was like, Jason just had an amazing day yesterday, and the rest of the guys. So definitely congrats to Coach Debo and the whole Times 2 Academy basketball team because that was a huge win.
Yeah, that was just a great game overall. I was, like you said, looking forward to that Bishop Hendricken matchup, Bishop Hendricken versus Classical matchup as well. But this D3 matchup, I was excited for too. Just knowing, knowing both guys, players from both sides of the ball, and having them played each other. This was just a great matchup. I mean, it was crazy to watch. I mean, like Kobe and Jason have been that 1-2 punch all year long, and then Xavier Mendez he's just a beast. And wherever he goes next, and whatever he's going to do in basketball next, I think any coach is going to be lucky to coach him because he's just a great player.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see BVP hardly substituted at all. I think they ended up at the end bringing in some subs just to foul and whatnot. So they were right in their starting 5, and Times 2 kind of tried to do the same, but then ended up bringing in kind of a bench play in the first half. Sales, I think is his last name, and just kid comes in and hits 2 threes. I'm like, wow, that's cool. Like you're just in the bench sitting down the whole time that you come in and just hit 2 threes, and that kind of sparked them a little bit. But BVP was able to hold them off. But then, yeah, that second half, it was just it just all started working out for times two. And that's what it is. Basketball is a game of runs. And sure enough, that's what ended up happening.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we got an overtime game. The first game, it just kicked us right off to right to the beginning. And it was also interesting too because I think they mentioned times two, they went to the wrong gym at the beginning of the game. They went to the rec center, and then you figured that would kind of start them off a little bit cold. But they good job for the interscholastic week to kind of give them that 20 minutes to warm up, and then they ended up at the Murray Center and got going. So we started a little bit late too as well because of that.
It was interesting because yesterday when I was doing kind of the lives on Instagram, and Kobe joined me, and it was like, I don't know, like 11:15, and they were still at the Times 2 gym, and I'm like, wait, what's going on? You guys should be on your way. And they're like, no, we're gonna head there now. But then they go to the wrong gym, so it was all a weird start, but somehow some way we were able to still catch an overtime game and still eventually wrap up the games at a timely fashion. So good job by the RIL, kind of just having a wonderful show yesterday with those 3 games.
Yeah, it's great. And now we're going to be joined by joining us, fresh off his championship win, Kobe Pena from Times Squared Academy. Kobe, congratulations. How does it feel to be a champion?
Different feeling. I woke up a champion today.
Must be an amazing feeling. Do you have dreams about it and everything?
Yeah. So I woke up a champion. That's all it is.
Good. And then first half, I mean, you had 4 points. Second half, you just turned it up. Scored 17 in second half and overtime. Did you know you were going to catch fire?
Yeah. Once I kind of caught a groove, I was just like, once I had my first 2 jump shots, I was like, yeah, it's going to be a good day. I just kept shooting it. Jason was just trusting me. I was trusting in him. That's my go-to guy. So we were just trusting each other. The whole team was trusting each other. And that's how we just started clicking. We caught fire. And once we got the momentum, we never gave momentum back. Once we were just stepping on the pedal, we never got off the gas pedal.
That's crazy. You guys really did a great job. I mean, you also, what was the strategy too? Because Xavier Mendez was beasting the whole game. What was it doing to slow him down?
So when we played him the first time, he had like 27, like they're almost close to 30 around that area. And we already knew what we were in for. So what we were doing is just like, we were just switching matchups the whole time. So we were having one of our other bigs play him, and then we'd have another big play him. So we just give him we just give him different guys. So they would have to change their play set. Now at the end, Paul Pinker was guarding him, he was playing really good on him. He was like, forced him to bad shots, airballing and stuff like that. And he didn't really make a lot of 3-pointers either. He didn't make any at all. We just played really good against him, even though he saw 27, but we played good when it really mattered.
Definitely. And you and Jason have been a dynamic duo all year. What was the season like playing together, and then to cap it off with a championship win?
Since my freshman year, Jason always told me, even his dad always told me to just shoot the ball, he'll have trust in you, you have trust in him. And we always had a connection because even in the summer, we used to always have open pickup runs and stuff like that. And we would always play together, and we would always know how to play with each other, what spots we want to be in and stuff like that. And we just always had that dynamic duo.
That's great. Yeah. Well, Kobe, congratulations. Congratulations on the championship win. Great run for you guys during the season. Looking forward to next season with you guys as well too. Congratulations, Vince, and we'll talk to you soon. Sound good?
Wait, one more thing. We both found out today that me and Jason are both first team all division.
Let's go! Congrats!
Right.
Congrats!
Congratulations!
Big going, man. What are the plans now that the season's over? What are the plans for spring and summer for you?
Just working out, getting better, perfecting my craft. Just ready for next year. Hopefully, take another championship win.
There you go. Congrats once again, man, and good luck the rest of the year, and good luck next year, man. Congrats once again.
Thank you. Have a good rest.
Now let's move on to the Division II finals. This is the battle of the 2-3 seeds in the Division II. They meet up each other. Portsmouth was looking for their back-to-back, and they're playing against a very good Burrillville team, who's a grinded-out fashion. Burrillville and Portsmouth was a close game, and Portsmouth ends up winning this game 51-36. Portsmouth are now back-to-back championships, and D2. It's crazy. The pace of this game was really in favor of the Broncos throughout most of the game. Going into halftime, the score was 19-18. And in the third quarter, Burrillville looked like it was going to take control. Jaden White hit 2 big 3-pointers to put them up by 5. Then Tim just took over. Tim Chlaupek wasn't, just started hitting 3-pointers, just went off. And while Burrowville couldn't make a basket, they just went cold, and Portsmouth really took control of the game and went up by 11 to win and just finished the game. And Burrowville is a team that reminds me of Virginia because the way they play basketball. But what are your thoughts on this matchup and Portsmouth being back-to-back champions in Division II?
Yeah, it was a grinded out game, like you said, and it looked like at least for the first 3 quarters that Burrowville was going to do again what they had been doing, kind of just beating teams that are supposed to be better than them and holding them to a lot less points than they used to scoring, and they were controlling the tempo and they were scoring when they needed. And then, like you said, something just turned on, and Tim, just went crazy. He just started making threes, making all the right plays, and it's so good to see from a kid, who got hurt early in the year, wasn't even sure he was going to make it back, to play with his team, and just to be able to have such a big game in the championship game, it's just amazing. And being back-to-back champions is not no easy feat. And a lot of it thanks to Tim, but obviously the rest of the team. Benny Hurd doing what Benny does. He was a good ball handler, scoring when needed. Calvin Lucenti, who's another short point guard, another good point guard who's just quick with the dribble and making some clutch shots. He played really good during the whole playoffs, and honestly during the whole year. So I think they got him coming back. They got a lot of the team coming back. So I mean, is there a three-peat in order for Portsmouth? Who knows? But it must be real good to be back-to-back champions.
Yeah, it was just a crazy, I think you might have tweeted out that Burrowville was really controlling the pace of the game, and it was very low scoring. I didn't know if the NFHS network, the scoreboard wasn't right or something like that when I looked at it, and then something like you said, something clicked with Portsmouth where they were just able to hit a switch and they ended up pulling away. And then Tim hit a really big 3-pointer in the closing seconds of the third quarter, and then hit another big 3-pointer in the fourth, and that just kind of was it right there. And they could I don't know.
And you look at the final score, and it looks like it wasn't as close a game as it really was, because it was a real close game. It just happened that Portsmouth at the end kind of took over. But that's kind of what we're accustomed to seeing these championship games, just really good games. 19-18 at halftime I was like, what is going on? This is a very, very low scoring game. So I was like, this is favoring the Broncos, and it looked like they were following their game plan. But hey, the better team prevailed at the end. So it was definitely a good game. Congratulations to Portsmouth, that whole community, because that's second championship 2 years in a row. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great for them. And now joining us will be Tim Chlaupek. All right, now we welcome on Tim Chlaupek. First of all, he is part of the championship team of Portsmouth. And Tim, how's it going? Congratulations on the back-to-back win. What does it feel like?
It feels great, especially to win back-to-back, especially with the kids on the team. I've been together with the seniors now since 5th grade. So it was a great accomplishment to go all the way.
Now, what was it like to be part of a game that was actually going Burrowville style play? You guys were it was slow paced, very grinded out. What was it like for you guys to kind of turn that around?
Especially last year and this year, we were known to be a second half team. We came out flat a lot. It was just kind of how we played. But once we got the flow of the game, once we got settled in, we were really able to dig deep on defense, and that's when our offense started flowing too. That's
great. That's awesome. And then you buried 2 threes to kind of help your team pull away and spark them. What was that like?
Yeah, that was a great moment to kind of spark the comeback. It is credit to my teammates though. They do trust me in shooting the 3 ball. Especially after coming back and missing a lot of time. But they give me the ball, they put the ball in my hands, and I just knock down the shots.
That's great. And then you mentioned that you missed a lot of time. What was it like to, you missed a good chunk of the season, came back right for the playoffs. What was it like just to, take that step right back on the court?
It was tough. I didn't even know if I was going to get back on the court or not, or what kind of condition I was going to be in on the court. I definitely wasn't at 100% out there with that brace, but I was out there. The brace gave me enough energy to play well enough to help my team.
Nice, that's great. And one last question: what do you think you guys are going to get? Are you going to ask your coach for the rings this year, or are you going to ask for jackets again?
I'm a jacket guy. I like the jackets. I really hope we do get some, but if not, we still have the other ones, and we got the memories too. So that's all that matters.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, Tim, congratulations. Thank you so much for your time, and congratulations again to you and Portsmouth on being back-to-back champs. Are you looking for a 3-peat maybe next year?
I hope I'll definitely be at the game supporting the team. But I mean, we have a chance. We have a chance every year, so it'd be cool to watch.
Sounds good. Well, Tim, thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you so much.
Now we jump to our Division I finals. It was a rematch we've all been waiting for. Classical versus Bishop Hendricken. It really lived up to the hype. It was a crazy game. Hendricken was able to capture the D1 title, win this one in overtime, 60-51 over Classical. This game was everything it was what we thought it was going to be. Bishop Hendricken had the lead for most of the game. They were up 27-23 at the halftime. Asmir really took control in the third quarter and really just started balling out. I think he had 11 points or something like that in the third quarter. And Hendricken held the lead for a good chunk of the game. And then it was 51-45 and the Classical went on a run. Actually, Alexis DeGeist actually followed out, and Elijah came in and came off the bench and hit a big shot. And then that kind of got the momentum going for Classical. Samuel Yurley hit another one. I mean, what was your thoughts as they went into overtime and in this game as it started to develop and get closer and closer? What were your thoughts, Ramon?
I mean, Hendricken strikes again. So had many people ask me throughout the year, or before the season started, who do you think is going to win? And I'm like, it's hard to bet against Hendricken. They're going to be the favorite till somebody beats them. It's just what they do. They're very deep, and they show that again. First half, my guy Jack Graham just kind of stepped up for them. Huge minutes, scoring and just making all the right plays, scoring, and playing good defense. They needed that in the first half, and they kept the lead. Second half, Osmar comes out and just steps up. The kid is a sophomore, starting point guard for Hendricken, and he was ready to go, making tough jump shots, threes, pull-ups, and then Hendricken kind of just steadied the ship. And eventually, in overtime, Classical made the run back, get to overtime. All of a sudden, Hendricken kind of showed out, and Classical was just, they were taking too many outside shots. I mean, that's all Hendricken was giving them, and it ended up working out. Hendricken was able to pull off another big win, back-to-back champions. That's crazy. I mean, it's great for them. It's amazing. I mean, really shout out to the Classical because they really pulled it together in the fourth quarter. I mean, Stanley Ure was like really doing his best to will his team to a championship, and so was Ned. They hit some big shots, and unfortunately, like you had mentioned, overtime they went 0 for 9. They just look gassed compared to Hendricken's deep, like you had just said. Like they're just a deep team. Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, if you think about it, Hendricken from the beginning of the game, they rotated their players, played up to like 9 players. They played like 9 players. Where Classical would have played only 5 if it wasn't because Alexis fouled out. They were willing to play only 5. So it's only so long you can go before you lose energy and you run out of gas. But Hendricken just plays really tough defense. I asked, and yesterday when I was doing that live, I asked alumni from Hendricken, Angel Sanchez, what do you think they're going to do to stop Marquise Buchanan, right? Because Marquise is just so good and he's been playing so good in the playoffs. And he was like, no, it's not going to be one person who stops Marquise. It's going to be team defense. It has to be team defense. That's what we do. And sure enough, they kind of kept Marquise at bay. I mean, he ended up with only 2 points, which doesn't mean he didn't have a good game because he was still doing other things. But to keep a player that good at 2 points, that goes a long way. And it was literally team defense that did that. So that team is just so well coached. They buy into the game plan and they just play the Hendricken way. Yeah, it was. I mean, they're just a great team overall. They were a great team to watch all year long. I mean, this game was just phenomenal to watch. Period, and it was everything that, like I had mentioned, everything that we expected to get that overtime and to keep playing the way both teams fought very hard throughout the game. And congrats to Bishop Hendricken again on back-to-back champs. As we speak about the champs, let's bring in our 2 guests, Eze Wali and David Lynch. All right, now joining us from Bishop Hendricken, the champions, David Lynch and Eze Wali. Guys, how are you? How does it feel to be champions?
Thank you for having us. Feels good. Feels great.
Been a journey, but we got it done, and very proud of all of us. It's awesome.
That's great. And how does it feel for you guys to get this win over a team that had beat you early on in the season and be able to get a revenge win against them? What was that feeling like?
It was even greater. It was like a revenge type feeling, like the adrenaline when you beat the team that beat you. We waited for it all season. We knew we was going to see them there.
Yeah, I think we kind of expected it. Classical's a good team, and we knew we were going to see them again. And we knew we didn't have to. It wasn't really revenge. We were just going to do our thing and try to win the state championship, like we promised everyone and the seniors last year. So that's what we wanted to do. It wasn't really revenge. It was just to win a state championship.
It's nice. And then playing for Hendricken, you guys usually play with a target on your back. Like just when you go to Hendricken, you get a lot of hate, you get a lot of, how does it feel? And what is it like knowing that people want you to lose and then Hendricken finds a way to win year over year?
It's crazy. Well, every game you play, you're going to get everyone's best. And they preach that at Hendricken. You play anyone, like we played Barrington, we got their best. We play everyone, we get their best. So it's almost like a blessing to play everyone the right way. And we end up getting coached really well. Coach Gomes does a great job. And we have some great players, and that just helps us win every year.
Yeah, and like filling in that, like even when other teams bring their best, we know we have to play good. We have to bring our A games every game, and that's how we win. Come together and we win.
That's great. And then what's it like too for you guys? Because you guys had 2 back-to-back overtime games. I mean, you beat LaSalle in overtime, and then you beat Classical in overtime. What's it like to, go back-to-back OT games? Does that tire you guys out? How does that help you guys, win? And what's that do for you guys?
We kind of have a deep bench. I don't know if you know that. Like we got a lot of guys. So, and we've been there before. Like we practice that every day. Like I think going into the overtime yesterday, it wasn't really a panic. Like we've been there twice now, and we have deep bench. We're not that gassed, and we're ready to go. We'll play till double overtime, triple overtime. We're just trying to win.
And what do you guys think about Osmar's performance? Like he showed up yesterday, making some huge jump shots, and to think that he's just a sophomore. As he's a sophomore, you're back next year, David. What do you think about Osmar first of all, and what do you think about the future of Hendricken?
Oh, kid's a killer. Like I don't know, you guys couldn't see it, but when he was playing like on the court, I saw his eyes. Like it's like that. Like
he was a menace. He was a menace.
We saw it in his eyes. We knew he wanted it, and when he's hot, we gave it to him.
He's very quiet. Like Asmar's a quiet kid. Like he's not gonna say anything, but like he's a killer, and we all knew that. We all knew he had it in him. And even like Jack gave us a good performance. Everyone played well that game, so
yeah,
it's good.
And what do you guys think about the future of Hendricken? You guys have a lot of guys coming back. What do you expect? Looking at the next year for Hendricken.
We're gonna try to do the same thing. Nothing else to say. We're gonna take care of business. We got some good kids coming back. We got the JV team's pretty good. The freshman team's pretty good. So we'll be fine.
Yeah, Hendricken's always good. So nothing to worry about.
I love it. It's great. I mean, you guys played a great game. Did any of your anyway, I know you mentioned it a little bit, but did you guys have any panic when you kind of went into overtime? Classical was making that run, or you guys were able to settle yourselves down, or in a huddle? Did Cam Hughes or anyone say anything to you guys in the huddle while you guys were going into overtime?
Yeah, no, it was Andreas, Cam. We have some great leaders on that team, and that was the main thing for us this year. We have great leaders. And everyone respects each other. So it wasn't really panic. It was just we're here, we belong here, and we needed to take care of business, and we've been there before. So it wasn't really a big panic.
Yeah, and we talked about being together, even before the game. We knew it was gonna be a close game, but even in the huddle before coming out OT, we started being together, we talked about with the coaches and our teammates. That's what happened.
Oh, well, thank you guys. This has been congratulations on the win. Hendricken's always there, always making runs in the tournament and always making it to the final. So congratulations to you guys. Congratulating your win. Enjoy this one, guys. And, we'll see you guys probably next year or something like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, guys. Take care.
Take it easy, guys.
Bye.
That was our interview with the champs, Eze and David Lynch. Great interview with those guys. Now, Ramon, you're gonna jump into your final season power rankings and then our rewards. So, do you want to go ahead and go over those power rankings with us?
Do it. So these are our final power rankings. So we started before the year started with preseason rankings, then we updated these every week. Obviously, the final power rankings depend completely on how the year finished out. Who won the championship, who was the runner-up, things like that. So a lot of those just work themselves out. But those are the best teams. Those are the ones who ended up in the finals for a reason. So for Division 3, 5, we have St. Pat's Academy. Although they lost in the first round to BVP, they lost to team that ended up going to the championship. And they had a wonderful season. Ended up with the 4th seed, just unfortunately met BVP at the wrong time, ended up losing. Number 4, we have West Warwick. Played well all year. Ended up losing in the second round, but played well all year, so they deserved that 4th spot. Number 3, Davies, undefeated all the way till they also ran into BVP, who was just beating everyone. But can't take nothing away from Davies. Great game. Number 2, your runner-ups, BVP. Could have been number 1, obviously, if they won the championship, but that number 1 spot goes to ×2 Academy, who's played very well from the beginning. They had that 1 loss, but other than that, just played very well. So those are your Division 3 rankings. What do you think, Jeff?
I think these are great. I mean, I think these have been, obviously the top 5 teams, I think, all year round. St. Pat's got the highest ranking they've ever gotten in the playoffs, for seeding. They were a 4 seed. West Warwick was a great team too, as well. That West Warwick ×2 game was very close as well too. It could have gone either way in the semifinals. And Davies, unfortunately, just ran into a very hot Blackstone Valley prep team, I think, who were beating their opponents on an average of 27 points per game or something like that, or 22 points per game going into that game. So they were just tough. And, obviously the two teams that faced, the 1 and the 2, they faced each other in the finals. I think these are great. I think ×2, could have gone either way, but it's a great. I think those are perfect.
All right, and Division 2, similar stories, very similar stories actually. So number 5, Pilgrim, great team all year. Ended up losing to Burrillville. Burrillville, similar to BVP, was a team that was just beating giants. So it's kind of similar story to St. Pat's. Had a great season, but then ended up facing the wrong team in the first round of their playoffs. Number 4, Wheeler. Up and down. I mean, they were pretty good all year. Again, ended up running into Burrillville, so lost that game. But that's a team that if they would have kind of kept advancing, they could have won the whole thing. Wheeler was a really good team. Number 3 is Greenwich. It's like a mirror image of Division 3. East Greenwich was undefeated the whole time, but unfortunately, we're not able to make it to the finals. But great group of guys there. That class of 2021 at East Greenwich, been playing together forever. So I'm sure they have a lot of great memories. I'm sure they would have wanted to go out with a championship, but not every team could win a championship. Number 2, Burrillville came out of nowhere and just kind of stunned so many teams on the way to the championship game. Almost stunned Portsmouth as well. But the champions, back-to-back Portsmouth, pulled it off. Ben, Tim, Calvin, the rest of those guys just kind of put it together. And like we said, I said it from the beginning, they lost to East Greenwich and Pilgrim at the beginning. Somehow, some way, they just put it together. I was like, just because they lost those 2 games, we got to stop doubting them. They're going to put it together. And sure enough, they put it together the rest of the year. What do you think of the Division 2 rankings, Jeff?
I think the Division 2 rankings look good to me. All those, like you said, I think those Pilgrims and Wheelers just ran into a tough Burrillville team that were just able to grind it out. And Portsmouth put it together after they lost the first game to East Greenwich and was able to beat them. And then obviously got Portsmouth 1 and Burrillville 2 just because of the results. But great games overall. And I think all those Division 2 playoffs were just awesome matchups. And there was some shock there and people losing, but great. I think these rankings are great.
Okay, and now on to Division 1. Division 1, North Kingston stays on that 5th spot. Obviously, they haven't played in a couple weeks, but they play well all year. Had some tough losses against some good teams. So it's not like, other than that shocking Smithfield loss, I think, North Kingston was good all year. So they get that 5th spot. Number 4, Mount Pleasant. It's crazy to think a team so good could be number 4 in anything because they're so good, but Division 1 was that good and that top heavy. But Mount Pleasant played great, and they came, they took Classical to overtime. They could have been the team in the championship game against Hendricken for all we know. But Marquise Buchanan has something to say about that. So, but Mount Pleasant definitely, the 4th spot. 3rd spot, LaSalle, undefeated all year, and then faced their rival Hendricken, and Hendricken kind of beat them in overtime. So LaSalle drops to number 3. Number 2, Classical. Such a good year. They had a good story. Unfortunately, it didn't end the way they wanted it to, but those guys have none to be ashamed of. They play well all year. They had a magical year. just couldn't close it out with a championship because the usual suspects ended up winning it again, as they did last year. So Hendricken gets that #1 spot in Division One. They started the year as #1, lost it when they lost the Classical, and then little by little worked them. And then the state rankings, and this time of year, they kind of worked themselves out. We don't necessarily put the top three, the 3 championship winners 1, 2, and 3 because it's still a power ranking statewide. Like if they were going into a state tournament now, for example, Times 2 wouldn't be the 3rd seed if we were going to a state tournament. It's just the way it is. But Hendricken gets that #1 spot. Classical was the #2 spot. LaSalle, even though they lost, still one of the best teams in the state. They get that 3rd spot. Mount Pleasant is that good, like I said, just happened to be 4th in Division One, but still could be any of those teams ahead of them in any day. And then Portsmouth, the D2 team, they just been playing so good they could compete with some of those Division One teams. So I think would have been good to see them in a state tournament against some of those other teams. Burrillville jumps all the way up as well. Burrillville looks like they could slow anyone down, so you never know. 7 East Greenwich, they dropped quite a bit, obviously, because they lost against Portsmouth, but it's still a good team. Wheeler, North Kingston, and then Pilgrim. It's just, unfortunately, we didn't get a state tournament this year, but it's good to see that there was so much talent across all 3 divisions. It would have been so much fun to see a state tournament. What do you think about kind of the overall, the way the year went and kind of the way things ended up, Jeff?
Yeah, I think the rankings look great, and like you said, it would have been awesome to get a state tournament. I think we got some really good basketball in those, in the playoffs period, and then leading up into the finals for all the games. Hendricken Classical, that was obviously a great matchup. Classical Mount Pleasant, I think, was like the game of the year overall, because in that playoffs, that was just a great matchup. But the rankings look great. It would have been interesting to see if there was a D2 school that could upset a D1 school, or like even if like a D3 school could have upset a D2 or D1 as well too. Anything could happen. It's a state tournament, but that's it. I think the year overall was awesome. I think everything worked out well for everyone over the year, and these rankings look great to me.
Yeah, and then honestly, every time I put out the preseason rankings, people have a lot to say. But if we compare the final rankings to my preseason rankings, they're not that different. So I had Hendricken #1 at the beginning of the year. I had Portsmouth #1 at the beginning of the year. I did have West Warwick in Division 3 #1 at the beginning of the year, but I had Times 2 #2. So I kind of saw Times 2 being close. So the way we put these rankings together, we do a little research. So kind of it worked out kind of similar to what I thought.
Yeah, it was great. There was some changes here and there, but a lot of the top teams really stayed in that top, stayed in the top teams that, you didn't really have to change your rankings, and the results really showed because, Times 2, Hendricken, Portsmouth, you had them all up there, and they stayed up there and moved up to #1.
No, definitely. Okay, so now let's take a look at the end of the season awards. So, and now let's go on to the end of season awards for Paul and RI. This year, been such, kind of an odd year, weird year. Luckily, we got to play, but we had to do things a little different. Normally, we have mid-season awards, the middle of the season, and then we have end of season awards after the regular season. We don't wait till the playoffs, but with this being such a short season, we just decided to wait till the whole season was over through the playoffs to then do the awards, just so we can have a bigger sample. But again, we go through kind of the similar awards we usually give out: top big, top wing, top guard, best shooter, top freshman, and then Division 3 MVP, Division 2 MVP, and Division 1 MVP. So any questions or any thoughts, Jeff, before we get started, or should we just get started?
I guess I'm just excited to see these. This is the first time I've been a part of this, so I'm looking forward to this.
Okay, so top big is the first one. So obviously in Rhode Island, we don't really have so many people who are just centers. So it's just if you play the big man position for your team, I consider you a big, whether you think you're a wing or even a guard sometimes. So it is what it is. Top big, the winner this year is Tyreek Weeks. Just a dominant player. So Tyreek, as we already said, has quiet 2020 games. So there was often when he would have 20 points, 20 rebounds, 5, 6, 7 blocks. Obviously, we don't see a lot of those stats in the box scores, But, in talking to his coach and then just from hearing, game after game, there was many games where he had over 15 rebounds. I wouldn't be surprised if he averaged over 15 rebounds for the year. So he's the top big this year. Some of the honorable mentions, people were very close. Xavier Mendez, Brian Taylor, both really good players for the teams, top big on their teams. I know Brian Taylor can be a guard on another team, but he played kind of the big man position for East Providence. So that is the top big, and those are the honorable mentions. What do you think about those, Jeff?
I think this is a great, I think Tyreek Weeks you're right. You always felt like he had like a quiet 20. I feel like every time you looked at the box score, when you sent out your score, when you tweeted out like the box scores and added, you'd always have like 20 rebounds, 23 rebounds a game. So that's understandable for top big. And then I think Xavier Mendez and Brian Taylor are right there, because Xavier Mendez was another person that, who was a double machine, and Brian as well too.
Yeah, nice. But yeah, so that's your top big. Now for top wing, winner is Stanley Ure. So he can be a guard, but I think he played more of like a wing position, with Marquise and Ned being the kind of the 1 and the 2 guard at Classical. So he kind of played the 3. But he had a great year. I mean, as a senior, he kind of came in from the beginning on a mission. I remember the first game, he was just so aggressive, and I was kind of glad to see that, because he's had the talent all along. It's just he's kind of been playing behind some talented players before. But this year, from the beginning, he was on a mission. Great player on a great team that went to the championship. But just a great player, and I think he's going to have a successful future, whether he goes to prep school or he goes to college next. So that's your top wing. Some of the honorable mentions: a couple of Division II players, Rashawn Fleming from Rogers and Octavio Brittle from Lincoln, both amazing electric wings, who, fortunately their playoff runs got cut short, but, could have made some serious noise in the playoffs and are just unstoppable as well. But Stanley wins it. What are your thoughts on the top wing?
I think it's a great pick. Stanley's been consistent all year round and just been a great player, and scoring and everything like that. And then the honorable mentions too, great as well too. Roshan. I mean, I know Rogers got a late start, but he came out on fire. I think his first game had 22 points or something like that. And Octavio was Octavio. Like you said, I think you mentioned in one episode we did together, or one show that we did together, that he said that like people questioned if he could score at another level, and I believe he just played a D1 team and he had 33 points. So Octavio is another great player, but I think Stanley was the right choice in this one.
Definitely. So Stanley is the 2021 top wing. For top guard, a lot of good choices, but that goes to Raf Awa. So Raf, kind of that scoring machine for LaSalle, team that was undefeated pretty much all year. And Raf is that good. Raf is gonna go left and spin. And even though that's happening, he still finds a way to do it and gets to the basket and scores. So that's that's ironically, that's the same way he scored that game time bucket or that game leading bucket against Hendricken, even though as he came back and tied it up and sent it to overtime. But Raf just finds a way to score. Very good guard. And to think that he's back next year is scary, because he's gonna be even more scary next year. Some of your honorable mentions are Marquise Buchanan, point guard for Classical, who just played great all year, plays above the rim. Involves his teammates, and then Hansel Hayes from Mount Pleasant, who's just very, very good. As we saw in that semifinal matchup against Classical, he was just unstoppable. So definitely a lot to choose from different divisions. But when it came down to top guard, it was 3 Division I guards that kind of were the 3 finalists. But Raf kind of gets that top notch as the top guard. What do you think there?
I think it's a good choice. Raf, he was a great player all year long and very consistent. And I feel like he was, between him and Dimitri were the 2 top players for LaSalle. And you would always see their names in the box scorers, either 1 or 2 in the top scorers. And then honorable mentions: Marquise, great player, great ball handler, great guard as well too. And Hansel Hayes, I mean, I think it was the episode that you said that he could just go off when he wanted to, and we saw that in a Classical game. He had a really great game. He's a great player, but I think Ralph's a good choice to this.
Definitely. It's funny you mentioned Dimitri, because a lot of people are probably wondering how come he's not a top guard. Because your defensive player of the year this year is Dimitri Ifrade. He's from the beginning. I mean, you could just say he's just so good defensively, on the ball, off the ball, rebounding, blocking, playing help defense. He's just all over the place, and Dimitri really impacts the game in more ways than one. He could score, he could shoot. But that's probably not even the best way he impacts the game. He just locks down some really good players, and he's the best defensive player in Rhode Island by far. I think it was that easy. Some of the honorable mentions: Michael Paquette out in Cranston West, point guard there, is very aggressive, very scrappy, and Andres Andujar from Hendricken, who's a guy, senior, jack of all trades. Didn't need to score as much for Hendricken, but he came in every day, and he would guard guards, he would guard big men, he would do it all. And he's just very good defensively, and kind of helped that. Hendricken has that such great team defense, but he's one of the guys that stand out defensively. What do you think about Dimitri being Defensive Player of the Year?
I think it's great. I mean, yeah, the kid's an unbelievable, great defender. It's a lot. You have to say a lot to be Defensive Player of the Year, of like what type of player you have to be focus a lot on defense as well, score too, not wear the energy. But I think it's a great fit for Defensive Player of the Year. And like you said, Mike and Andreas had great years playing defense, but yeah, Dimitri's he's tough. He's a different level.
No, definitely. Then next we have top shooter, which is probably one of the easiest awards to give out. Top shooter in Rhode Island, regardless of division, definitely is Jack McMullen. He can shoot it. As soon as he crosses half court, he can shoot it. So we can tell he had 50-point game this year, making, I think we had like 13 threes that game, and just can shoot it all. And I've seen Jack personally, and it's just sometimes the further he gets from the line, the better, the higher percentage of shot is for him, which is ridiculous. So definitely a top shooter. It goes to Jack McMullen this year. Some of the honorable mentions: Travis Cobain out of Wheeler, who can, two defenders on him, a handwriting in his face, he can still make threes. And then Ned Fitzpatrick from Classical, who obviously we know who can shoot big time, clutch shots, and just great shooter. So we have definitely a lot of great shooters in the state of Rhode Island, but none better than Jack McMullen. Do you disagree with that at all, Jeff?
I can't disagree with that one. Trying to disagree with someone that hit 13 3-pointers in a game and scored 54 points. I don't know how you made the decision. I don't know how you put it in the honorable mentions, because I think there's a lot of great shooters out there too. So that's tough. I might get a lot of tough feedback on this one, but Jack's great. Watching Jack this year has just been unbelievable. Like you said, the further away, sometimes you think his percentage goes up. I mean, he likes to shoot. His teammates were joking when he came on the show that he likes to shoot 40-footers. He does. He still sinks them. But, Travis, also another great player at Wheeler, does great things. And then Ned, we've seen him hit some big shots over in the playoffs as well, too. And what he's been able to, he's not afraid to step up and shoot three. Sure, that step back 3-pointer against Mount Pleasant, too. But, yeah, I think, obviously to go with Jack with this one, because he balled. He balled out this year.
No, definitely. And it's tough to figure out the honorable mentions. Honestly, there was probably about 5-6 guys who I thought about, but those are kind of the top three shook up. The next one, which is a tough one, real tough one, is top freshman. So a lot of good players, a lot of freshmen who played meaningful varsity minutes on good teams, on bad teams, but there was a lot of good freshmen. But the top freshman goes to Matt Raffa. And it was very, very close between him, Trey, and then Joshua Drury also from Times 2. But Matt kind of, been doing it from the beginning. Ended up, willing kind of Barrington to a winning record. He was the number one option on his team too, which kind of makes it a little tougher because defense is focused more on him. And then I think in honors, he came down that decision between him and Trey to that head-to-head matchup they had where, they went head-to-head. They both played well, but, Barrington walked away with the win. So definitely a tough game, tough matchup. But Matt gets that freshman of the year this year. What do you think about that?
It's tough. I don't know how you made up the decision, but like Matt's a great player. Trey is too, and Josh as well. Matt had some great games, and Trey had they both had some really great games. And that matchup, I think, like you said, probably was a deciding factor, because I don't know how I would be able to choose anyways. So I'm glad it's you and it's not me on this one. But honestly, I think with all the great freshmen that really played out this year, I think Rhode Island's going to be in good hands for some great basketball players, moving on, possibly moving on to the next higher levels. But we're going to see some great basketball for the next 4 or 5 years with these guys.
No, definitely. And then we get into the MVPs for each league. Division 3 MVP goes to no other than Jason Peters, who had just a wonderful day yesterday in the championship day, won a championship, got MVP, and scored his 1,000th point as a junior in the process. So it was just an amazing day for him. Had an amazing year. Has a lot of help around him now, so he's able to distribute the ball a lot, not just score. Before he was just scoring. Now he's a lot more well-rounded, which is going to help him overall. but definitely was the MVP this year. Some of the honorable mentions is obviously Raheem Rainey, who was just balling out all year, scoring out of his mind. Xavier Mendez, big man, so dominant for BVP. But it came down to the fact that Jason Peters was able to will his team to a Division III championship. So can't take that away from him. If you're the best player on the best team, you are the MVP.
Yeah, agreed. And Jason had a great year. Jason's just a great player and a great kid. I think his basketball IQ is so high too. He's just a great player watching him play. But and same thing, best player and the best team win the championship. Obviously, going to be MVP. Raheem Rainey had a great season as well too. Definitely out there. I mean, I think we joked around a couple of times. If he had 22, it was like a bad night for him.
Yeah.
And so and then Xavier, great player overall. Just a really great kid, great player. Like I said, whoever, Raheem and Xavier, wherever they go next to go on to play basketball, the coaches are going to be extremely lucky to have two great players like that. But it was Jason pretty much all year. I mean, kid last year was putting up 42. This year's put up good numbers, 36, but he's also became a great passer as well this year.
No, definitely. So that's Division III. Division II, and I believe 2 years in a row, I think he got Division II MVP last year as well. Benny Hurd. Benny just didn't have to score as much this year, but was just so instrumental to making sure Portsmouth kept winning, and got to the playoffs and they kept winning. And he's just so talented. He plays Division II in Rhode Island, but Benny plays some of the top talent in the country when it comes to the AAU circuit as well, and he can do it against them as well. Benny was the best player on Portsmouth. Portsmouth wins again, so he gets that MVP for Division II. Some of the honorable mentions: Jack McMullen was kind of very right there, tight in the race. He's probably one of the best players in the state this year, regardless of class. And then Tyreek Weeks as well, very dominant player. Could have been in the MVP discussion, but obviously this year we took into consideration also the playoffs, and with Portsmouth winning it all, the award goes to Benny Hurd.
Yeah, that's great. That whole Division II South is just all these guys all in Division II South are stacked. They all played against each other. Those were all great games. Like you said, you have to give it to the championship team, Benny Hurd, who just overall just around a great player. But tough too. Jack having a great year and Tyreek, but gotta give it to the team that won the championship and the MVP. So Benny, congratulations to you again on back to back.
And then Division I MVP. This is probably the toughest decision to make. Very, very hard trying to figure out who would be the MVP. I'm very, very big on not doing ties like co-MVPs or things like that, because I don't care about all the hate I'm gonna get in the comments. I make the decision based on who deserves it the most. But this year was so tough. I had to kind of do a little compromise with myself, and the MVP for Division I goes to the entire Hendricken Hawks team. They truly didn't have one player who was like a superstar or a 30-point scorer. They just did it as a team. When I started trying to figure out who's the best player on Hendricken, you can say, maybe David Lynch or Cam Hughes played very hard at the end, or Ezzy is kind of the future. Osmar was the leading scorer in the championship game, or Justin Perez is kind of the highest profile name, but they're all that good. So I think this year, making an exception, not happy that I'm making an exception, but I think the MVP for Division I just goes to the entire team. Some of the honorable mentions: Raf, Awa, Phil Masal, Stanley Ure could have been MVPs. But this year it has to go kind of to the entire Hendricken team. They were that good, and they were able to kind of just share that responsibility without needing to have one superstar.
Yeah, I think Hendricken is the best team. They're the best team. They're so deep. They can do so much. Like you said, there hasn't been really one top scorer for them. I feel like we mentioned it several times. They're just 5 interchangeable guys. Even the bench guys get points for them. And they just all play everyone just does something, but they all play great defense. They all play good ball with each other. They seem like a really good team that's really united. And they're going to be tough. I mean, they're going to be a tough team to beat going into the future as well, too. They bring some guys back as well. And the honorable mentions obviously are well deserved because Rafael was great all year. And then Stanley Ure has also been just a monster as well, too, and enjoy the watch. So, but Bishop, Hendricken is the whole. I don't blame you for giving it the whole team. Honestly, I would if I had to make that choice, I would not know the truth. But it reminds me of the Tampa Bay Bucks when they won the Super Bowl. I'm dating myself. Back in like 2000, the defense was like everyone's like the defense should win it. But that's how good they are, though.
No, definitely, and that's kind of tells the whole story of the season. They just been doing it all together all year, and the fact that I couldn't even pick out one MVP just shows that they really play serious team basketball here. So that is kind of the awards for this year. That wraps up the high school season. I know all state awards are about to come out, so we'll be announcing those as well. There's usually the coaches awards and the Providence Journal awards, so we'll get some debates around those as well. But these are the Bowling RI awards, so those are ready to find out what people think about them because there's always a lot of chatter.
I'm excited to see the chatter in the comment section. I'll try not to use my burner account. Just kidding. No, this is great. I mean, the awards are great. Ramon, honestly, thank you so much for, this is probably the last show, doing a rather like a basketball show together, recap show until possibly next year, hopefully for next year. And then, but I want to say thank you so much for joining me and really taking the show up to another level and bringing your insights and everything like that. I honestly, you are the Dickie V of high school basketball. You know everything. You're great. You killed it. Always a joy to talk with, and I know down the line you and I are going to be doing some great interviews as well as we continue to start covering some basketball, continue to cover basketball in different areas as well. But I can't thank you enough, and I can't thank the fans and everyone, the coaches and the players for being a part of the show. It really means a lot to me. And, this has been so much fun. I'm glad we're able to turn a negative into a positive this year with everything that was going on.
Definitely. And thank you, Jeff, for having me. And honestly, this is, like you said, just glad we were able to play out the season. And let's hope for a healthy football season coming up and then healthy, spring sports season. And then hopefully we can do it all over again next year.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much. And we'll